Get Into Geek. This is episode 165. We are talking Stargate Atlantis. The Get Into Geek team is here. My name is Mitch. Joining me, Maddie.
Yo.
And Brendan.
G'day, guys.
There we go. That's you. We're back in the Pegasus Galaxy this week, talking episode 7 of season 1 of Stargate Atlantis. Poisoning the Well. Now, 2 weeks ago, our last Atlantis podcast, Maddie, all three of us really were laughing about the fact that the children in Childhood's End, their nickname for the Stargate was the Well, or the Wraith Well, or whatever. And we're like, you dicks. The well goes down. And you're like, well, maybe that's got to do with the next episode. Obviously it doesn't, but it's called Poisoning the Well, and we soon find out why. It was, but I'm glad you did that, because I had no idea what to expect, because Get Into Geek, it's really a first watch rewatch, and Rhys has been our first time watcher for Stargate SG1. Now that we're in Atlantis, I'm the first time watcher, so we'll get to season 7, which is 6 episodes more than I've ever seen in the last 20 years. Let's get into what that's about.
It is weird that we always joked about that we don't need Rhys now. Like, come season 8, season 1 of Atlantis, we don't, and then he's just not here.
He's just not here.
And we haven't spoken about why he's not here. And so how about that synopsis?
Absolutely. Exploring a new gate address, the team encounters the Hoffmans. Hoffmans? Philip Seymour Hoffmans? A human civilization that has developed a drug with the potential to make them immune to the Wraith. When they learn of the Wraith's awakening at the hands of the Atlantis team, do they? The Hoffman leaders grow impatient and demand that the people be inoculated before the drug is proven safe. Dr. Beckett, the Scottish one, is appalled, but can he make them see reason before it's too late? Story by Mary Kaiser, teleplay by Damien Kindler, directed by Brad Turner.
Turnstar.
I guess you could say this episode was written by Mary Kaiser So-So. There's a Kaiser So-Say.
I don't mind that. That's not bad.
Virgin.
As the first timer, I didn't mind this episode. It was again like Childhood's End, where I said this is the same thing we've seen in SG1 100 times over. Where, Childhood Ends was we go into a place and we go, we don't like the way you're doing things. This is the right way to do things. This was the case of, hey, we know more things than you do. We're going to help you catch up and give you things to catch up to where we are to, either assist us in the fight or to get just as prepared as we are for the fight that's coming. And they don't know how to handle the things that we give to them. They can't play with the toys that we've given them. And I guess what I liked about this episode is it wasn't necessarily going towards the end that it ended up getting to. I didn't know whether these guys were going to sort of backstab them and double cross them, the Hoffmans, or all that, because they were like, hey, we've got this great piece of technology, this medicine that might help. So it was then over to us, and then we threw it back to them. And in the end, there was no real bad guy except for themselves. They were doing their own injustices to themselves. They were being greedy. And I feel like in some ways, what happens a lot in this podcast is we review episodes of Stargate that are very timely to what's going on in the world at the moment. And the fact that these guys were trying to come up with this immunity, this cure to this, not a virus, but something that was going to attack them. And they were just in a mad rush to get something that was going to fix them, even if it risked killing them. I'm like, oh my God, this feels creepy to what's going on in the world right now. So I actually kind of really liked it for that reason. I don't know whether that impacted you guys at all, having seen this episode 15 years ago when it first came out, but I actually kind of liked it, even though, like I said, it does kind of smell a little bit like what we've seen in SG1 a lot of times before in the 7 seasons before SGA started.
When you said cure, that kind of pricked my ears up, because that's pretty much the exact episode, is the one where Jonas find out, and then this chick who's in this episode
has the same actress,
was in Cure. Because I'm like, where have I seen this bird before?
Of course.
That was Xena. That was the what do we call her? She was glory hole chick. Remember the whole thing about the glory hole in the tent?
Was she ever?
Oh my God, of course she was. Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing was, I remember watching that episode going, oh, she's pretty cute. This doctor chick's pretty cute. And in this episode, I'm like, This doctor chick, she's kind of hot. I got a little bit of a thing for
She's
her.
a little older, but God, she's hot.
She's a little older than I would have liked from sci-fi doctors, but God damn it. Yeah, right. Wow. Okay.
And I feel like, did this episode come too soon? Like, I feel like for episode 7, that is so much progression in terms of what we know about the Wraith, how they work, how they eat us, how we can stop them. Yes, obviously the price was too high in the end, you know, to use the drug and all that kind of stuff. But it's like when you look at how long it took us to, like, episode 7 of SG1, we didn't know this much about the Goa'uld.
Yeah.
Like, we were still like, oh, nothing of the host survives and all that kind of stuff. So it's really like super, super, super duper on fast forward of us learning stuff really quickly.
Yeah, you're right. Like, this is coming 6 episodes after the pilot, whereas it probably should come 6 episodes before the season finale, where it's like, hang on, have we got a weapon that can fight these guys? You know, and it actually gives you a bit more of a false hope in a way, considering where you, the viewer, know where you are in the season structure, you know, in a 22, 23 episode television series. So,
but they do use the Hoffen drug as a kicking off point for like a whole big sort of arc.
Right.
Nothing. It really has nothing to do with this episode. I think they kind of almost. I feel like what they do with it is they had that idea already, and they just went, "Oh, we'll just call it a variation of the Hoffen drug."
Yeah.
Because it does nothing what the Hoffen drug does, and it's very convoluted and goes in weird directions, which we'll get to as we go through. But
like, I think talking about what Mitch was saying is that this is what I like about Atlantis, is that they can skip that. Like I was saying, I've said that in the last few weeks, in the fact that they don't worry about the UN sanctions. They don't worry about, like last week with McKay not really caring about stealing that ZPM, like ethics wise. Not that I like that they're doing that so much, is that they can, and it's a good story device, is that they can just be like, don't worry about the rules so much. Let's see what can possibly happen. Let's see it, like, because Atlantis is technology based, where the ancients eventually got to, where we want to be and what we want to see.
We're also not handcuffed by the fact that, you know, for SG1 to be such a good show as it is, they get a lot of support and help from the US military because of the way they portray airmen. Whereas because this is a civilian operation set in another galaxy, yeah, you're right, they can get away with certain things where I feel like if it happened in SG1, the military advisors would be like, no, that would never happen. You can't. You've got to rewrite it. You've got to change it, which they've had to do in the past.
And that's one of my favourite scenes of this episode is Shepard versus Weir talking about the fact that the Wraith, they can do whatever they want to the Wraith, because he's like, and like I've said throughout all of SG1, why don't they get someone on death row who they don't care about, implant them with the Goa'uld, get all the technology, all the knowledge, but their ethics stop them from doing that, whereas in Atlantis, they don't really care about that.
I feel like Weir did. I feel like, I mean, she
No, that's
she
what I mean. I like that scene because Shepard doesn't care, really.
Yeah, and he gets Weir on side quite quickly. I feel like she kind of, in a meta perspective, she's just giving us what needs to be said. But at the end of the day, she's for it because the plot needs to move along. But in the way that at one point she's like, should we be experimenting on the... It's almost like she was for the Wraith, and she was saying like, are we experimenting on the Wraith? Is that something we should do?
Yeah.
And what I like is, in my head, that kind of ties back to the fact that because we don't know a lot about the Wraith yet, if this was the Goa'uld back in season 1, we do the same thing because we didn't know about the Tok'ra yet. So it's like, there could potentially be a Tok'ra version of the Wraith, and he could be one, and we're about to kill him. So she kind of throws that up, and then she also then throws up that line where she's like, "Oh, we're going to let a human being be fed on by a Wraith. We're gonna let that happen. Ethically, isn't that a bit dodgy?" And that's when Shepard's like, he's the guy on death row, and he's volunteering to do it because his people are that gung ho about it. And that's when I think we realizes, well, she's got no jurisdiction over that. Like, she's got no pull and sway over anyone on the Hoffen planet. So she kind of just goes, okay, all right, do it.
Plus, I think secretly she wants to know what happens. She wants that weapon to save her people.
Yeah, I think she was sort of just taken aback with how gung-ho Shepard was it, and she just needed that time to process and also to give us as an audience some exposition and make sure that we touch on, yes, we're aware of these things, but we're still going to move forward.
Yeah, I think that's why I like that scene so much, because it actually falls in Shepard's favour, which is usually weird, doesn't do that.
But the beauty too is like if there's no wrong answer. Like if she'd have said no, I kind of would understand why. I mean, obviously you put an end to the episode, so there's no point doing that. But even her saying yes, I buy that as well.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like they said, at a certain point there was going to have to be human trials. Just because the Hoffins are moving faster than they thought. I mean, the Hoffins have been working on this drug for like 150 years, so they're ready for human trials.
Yeah.
Just it's only because we got there last week that she's trying to pump the brakes. So I like that.
Yeah, and they've kind of set the precedent as well. Like the base doctor being Carson Beckett says we're not in the FDA's jurisdiction when it comes to gene therapy when he gives the inoculation to McKay in the pilot, I think, or episode 2.
Yeah. It was episode 2 with the personal shield when he gives him the...
he just didn't... It was like, he's set the precedent there, so it's pretty much the Wild West.
Something I find interesting, though, is this is a very Carson-heavy episode. Like, not only does he get a lot of the jargon like Janet used to get, he also gets a love interest story as well, and it's like... He's not even a main character. He's not even in the opening credits. He's a guest star. Like, he's a recurring guest star like Janet was.
Yeah.
And he's already got his own episode. It's like we haven't had a Ford episode yet. We've kind of had like...
Speaking of last week, remember when Shepard forgets Ford?
Forgets him?
There was a beat here where he's like, what's his name again?
Yeah, Lieutenant Ford. We've kind of had a John episode with like 38 minutes-ish kind of thing, and we've kind of had a Taylor episode with Suspicion, and we know a lot about McKay, obviously, because he's a pullover character. It's like, we haven't had a Ford episode yet, but we've got a Beckett episode.
To be honest, I love Beckett, and every scene he's in, I don't know if it's the dialogue or the accent or the acting or all three combined, but it was blocked just a hallway scene, and everything he said, I just found myself kind of giggling along with how...
He's a very fun character.
Said. Yeah, he's great. He's just so great. Just everything he's in, he seems everything he touches turns to gold. Most of the episodes.
And even though they were giving him crap at the start, like about how he didn't like going through the Stargate, and let's just put a tally over here. Let's put a tally over here in the corner that Shepard and McKay both watch Star Trek, so we'll hang that over in the corner here just so we all know that.
Well, if there was Stargate in that universe, they'd watch that, obviously.
But the fact that like Beckett doesn't like to go through the Stargate is a bit weird. He didn't seem like whingy and whiny like he kind of did in the pilot. Like he's kind of shifted like the tone of his character a little bit. So he's not as whiny, which I think helps as well.
I think Rhys didn't like him, and I was kind of
that's right.
surprised by that because I didn't like Carson in the pilot either. But as time goes on, you grow to love him.
Yeah, he definitely has some of the most character growth in the entire series.
Like Rhys loves the Scots. Because of Braveheart, it's his favourite movie.
Yeah, I automatically thought Beckett would be his favourite character, but once again, it's the Doctors. He's got an issue with the Doctors.
It would be his favourite character. You just got to watch more.
Yeah, I come to love him a lot more after playing that bit 2 weeks ago of Martin Gero, Maddie's favourite Stargate Atlantis writer actors. I think just able to.
I'd say actor/writer.
Probably.
I went too hard too soon. I've ruined it for myself.
But when he played that bit, and I don't know anything about the actor that plays Carson Beckett, right? So for all I know, he's a real Scotsman, or he's an actor whose parents are Scottish.
Because you probably don't remember me.
Ding, ding, ding.
Back in I was going to say Tin Man. No, it wasn't Tin Man. Back in Torment of Tantalus, the guy who plays the young
Ernest Littlefield.
Ernest Littlefield. That's him in the flashback video where Daniel finds.
Oh Jesus! I actually remember you guys saying not in Torment of Tantalus, but somewhere in between. You referred to the guy who played a young Ernest coming back in SGA. I didn't know that was. Okay,
remember,
cool.
there's that scene at the dining table where young Catherine is like, "Oh, have you tried direct current instead of alternating current or whatever it is?"
Yeah,
that's Carson.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, well, I'd
Him
completely
in the suit. And
blanked on his face.
that was that episode we did mention.
I mean, that was years ago.
No, but still, like, you guys did. And I think at the time, like, oh, good, I'll remember that so I can look out for it. And I didn't. And it's probably very offensive to any, like, legitimate Scotsman listening. But, like, I listened to that accent, I'm like, that sounds pretty legit. It's like very emphasized. Like, when someone puts on a real Aussie twang in their voice, like, it's probably very exaggerated, but he does his inflections very well. And even last week in that video that we played where he talks to Martin Giro and giving him acting advice and accent sort of interpretations to follow, I'm like, oh, you're a really good teacher, you're a good mentor in learning accents as well. So I was surprised to learn, as dumb as that may make me sound, I was surprised to learn that he actually wasn't a Scottish actor or something.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head in that it's either his parents or his grandparents are Scottish and have a thick Scottish accent. And he'll actually, on occasion, since on the special features, on occasion, he says he'll call them to get the right pronunciation on certain words if he can't get it right with his dialect coach. So he does get help from them on how to sound like a real Scot.
Yeah, it's like Mike Myers, the great Canadian actor.
Yeah.
His old man, I think his mum as well, they're hardcore Scottish.
Really?
That's why he was so good in as Fat Bastard.
Yeah.
Other than there come my vagina. Like it's
eat babies.
like it's not. I reckon the Australian accent must be the most difficult because the only person I've seen even come close is Robert Downey Jr.
He was very good. Actually, you know what else you want to check out? The worst film I've ever seen in my fucking life, and I've told you guys about this 100 times. But the
White Couch movie.
Yep, the White Couch one.
Yep.
The movie Mental, and Liev Schreiber plays like this. I don't know if he works at at an aquarium and he's like a sort of shark handler or something. Either way, plays this real rough bloke. But he does, I actually want to say, the best Australian accent by a non-Australian actor I think I've ever heard. And it's because it's not overplayed. And at the time he was going out with / engaged to Naomi Watts. So he was ready to marry an Australian actress, probably hanging around with a fair few Aussies. And he would have picked that up and to not overdo it. But you're right, that Robert Downey Jr. one was pretty excellent, considering most of the movie he was pretending to be an African American exaggerated accent.
That was Tropic Thunder, but he also does it in the Bonnie and Clyde one.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I'm going straight to the most. Well, not I was gonna say iconic, but the most recent one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I thought you were referring to Tropic Thunder. I'm just trying to think of another instance where an American has done like an Australian accent. I can't even think of any.
Sam Worthington in Avatar does an Australian accent.
I was thinking, oh, geez, Hugh Jackman in Chappie does a pretty good Australian accent, but
Chris Hemsworth in any of the Thor films. I mean,
sounds like a grade 12 Shakespeare assignment.
Sam Worthington in Avatar. Great call. Oh, shit. You know what?
Rose McGowan in Troy does a great Australian accent too.
No, Rose McGowan. Rose Byrne.
Oh, sorry, Rose Byrne.
Jesus.
Sorry.
I mean, okay, nothing against Rose McGowan, but Rose Byrne is a national fucking treasure.
I gave it to you saying Rose. Well done.
Yeah, good call.
No, I just remember Michelle Laurie always tells that joke about Rose Byrne in Troy, where she's yelling after Orlando Bloom and she just turns around in the broadest Australian accent goes, Paris, wait!
Yes. One of my
like she's on
stories,
Kath and Kim.
Yeah, from that old breakfast team was when they interviewed Sam Worthington and they thought he was Joel Edgerton.
I would have done the same thing.
Kip said he did. He interviewed Sam Worthington.
Everyone does that.
No, sorry. No, maybe it was the other way around. Maybe he interviewed Joel Edgerton and thought he was Sam Worthington.
Either way, in the Matrix.
Basically, it was that sort of shit. Like, right. So he interviewed, say, Sam Worthington, and he was asking about the fact that he was Owen Lars in Star Wars, and it's like, nah, man, he was in Avatar, and he's like, oh, okay. Either way, how's Kathy Freeman to date? And it's like, nah, man, I'm fucking Lara Bingle. Like, what are you talking about?
I grouped Chris Hemsworth in that back in the day as well. Until Chris Hemsworth kind of made it big.
Yeah.
The Worthingtons, Edgertons, and Hemsworths, I couldn't tell you who was who. And yeah, the Joel Edgerton and Sam Worthington, I still can't tell you which one's which.
Oh no, Edgerton's the fucking man, mate. He's another national treasure. Edgerton's the fucking bomb. Sam Worthington, don't mind him, but at the same time,
I couldn't tell you if Avatar and Star Wars were the same guy or not. Like
that's what I was like. I know Brett.
I can't name one.
On our chat yesterday, and I sent through a behind-the-scenes photo of Avatar 2, and Brennan said, thank God for Avatar, because Sam Worthington, like, where else would he be? But that's the thing, though, like, up until Endgame, when Avengers Endgame became the biggest film of all time, Avatar was the biggest film of all time. You could go up to 100 people in the street and ask them, who is the lead actor of the biggest film of all time? 99 people wouldn't know what the
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. No one would know. And that's nothing against Sam Worthington. It's probably more of an attack on like the fact that Avatar hasn't had the like pop culture sort of grasp that you think that it would. But the fact is we're 11 years after that film and you would have asked people, who's the biggest lead actor of all time based on the fact they were in the biggest film of all time? No one's saying Sam fucking Worthington, and I like the guy.
That's because the same year Avatar came out was fucking Terminator Salvation. And then the year after that, he did Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, See, I think that was actually a pretty boss move from James Cameron though, because like even though he didn't have a lot to do with Terminator Salvation, it's still Terminator, so like his name's still going to be attached to it. And I think from what I read, like he kind of like pushed Sam Worthington to be in that role, which was kind of like a free advertisement for the fact that this was going to be the guy that was going to be in Avatar, his film later in the year. And then that became...
Oh, did they come in that order, did they?
Yeah, Terminator came out in like June, maybe July of 2009. And
when did Hurt Locker come out?
Hurt Locker.
Burn. Yeah. His ex-wife directed that.
Yeah, well, that came out in... I think for us it was early 2010, but in America it was 2009. So they both were up against each other for at the Oscars. Both up for Best Picture, both up for Best Director.
And he won the whole season as Best Picture, apart from Oscars, right?
Oh, I can't.
He won the Golden Globes. He won everything apart from the Oscars, and his wife pipped him at the post.
I remember thinking in the Oscars, I don't think the Oscars is ready to hand a movie like Avatar Best Picture of the Year, but I kind of wanted him to get Best Director because of all the shit that he did to create that film. Like, it shouldn't count toward his favour.
Or maybe is that what it was?
Yeah, maybe.
You beat him for that.
Like, he created or helped create technology to make that film possible. And that's what the Oscars does a lot too. If you've got two films going up against each other for big awards, one film will win the actor, the other one wins director. Or one will win director, the other one wins picture.
Like Joker.
It's just what, right? It's just what they do. And I think Hurt Locker, did it do both? Did it win Best Picture as well as Best Director? Or I kind of want to say, it definitely won Director. Like she was the first female director to ever win. And I'm pretty sure Hurt Locker won for Best Picture.
I think it did.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, come on. That's just because you just don't like CGI. They're trying to be too nice.
What, you don't like blue cat people? What?
Hey, just back onto Sam Worthington for a second. I've just been IMDbing, and we guys have been doing your Oscars chat. You'll be glad to know that in between doing his breakout performance in Bootmen, if you remember that movie back in 2000,
great Aussie films.
It's like the male version of Coyote Ugly. He did an episode both in the year 2000. Did an episode of both Blue Healers and Water Rats. So I mean,
you were about to say Sea Patrol, mate. I honestly did.
I was like,
Sea Patrol's way later than that, mate. Sea Patrol was like 2009. He's too old for that shit.
He already made Avatar then.
He made me probably the most nervous I did an interview with him for a movie called Man on the Ledge or Man on a Ledge. Anyway, whatever it was.
With Russell Crowe, was it?
No.
Who was in that? I watched it. It was a pretty good movie.
I can't remember now. But he was a guy that
I can tell you. Elizabeth Banks and Jamie Bell.
Yeah, keep going. There's one more guy that is like the Russell Crowe type.
Yeah.
William Sadler?
And Ed Harris or something.
Yeah.
William Sadler. He was in Star Trek.
Yeah, no, keep going.
He's like number 4 on the top billed cast.
I know.
He's a bad guy.
I know who you're talking about. But
that guy.
Yeah, I know. The bad guy in Die Hard 2. The president in the MCU.
Sloane from DS9, thank you very much.
Fuck yourself.
Anthony Mackie was in it.
Oh, that's right, yeah. But I remember interviewing him and I said, oh, mate, I really like this movie. It reminded me a little bit of Phone Booth and The Negotiator and something else. I said 3 movies where it just reminded me of these other 3 movies that I really liked. He goes, yeah, that's right. We plagiarized them all.
Ugh.
And I was like, from the get-go, I'm like, this guy hates me. And
He's a douche anyway.
He's a dickhead, man.
I never recovered. I felt like that was probably the wrong way to question. But I'm like, hey, I really like these 3 movies. This reminded me of all of them, and I really liked it. He's like, yeah, you're right. We didn't do anything original. And I'm like, oh god.
Isn't he the one that talks about his craft though?
I think he did at one stage.
He's a dickhead.
I think he did at one stage.
The thing that annoyed me the most, I think, about him was he was in Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
And he had a crew cut, and his mate said to him, come on, man, they didn't have crew cuts back then. They just would have been like straight blade or, long hair. And he's like, it's a fucking popcorn movie. Like, really? That's your answer? You're a fuckhead. It's your mate. Like, he was telling the interviewer that his mate said that to him, and he said,
you're right.
Mate.
Wow.
What a dickhead. What a dickhead.
Anyway. He's got Avatar 2, 3, 4, 5 to look forward to, so he's got some bank coming in.
That's what I mean. Like he got lucky he was in that first one because his career fell off a cliff. I'm not saying much about me, the Stargate podcast guy, but the fucking fact that
crushing it, mate.
Oh, mate.
We're
getting bigger and bigger.
You know what I love most about being the Stargate podcast guys is that we can go off and talk about Sam Worthington and shit canning for 15 minutes in the middle of an episode.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this one's not great.
Nah.
Much as they kind of, it's weird how they have a shitty episode that you can just hang something off like this virus that they'll feed to the Wraith. It's so weird because even on this rewatch, I hear Beckett talking to the other Cure doctor, and I wasn't listening. No, this is key dialogue for the entire series, more or less.
Okay,
or at least the first couple of seasons.
I didn't want to jump straight to the end when we started talking about this, but now that we're bringing it up,
remind
me because I didn't watch it.
He quotes. Who does he quote? Roosevelt or someone? Churchill. That's it.
Victory at all costs. It was, okay, so they had this drug. They think that it might be a deterrent to the Wraith. It makes them stink and the Wraith don't want to eat them. That's all it is. So they test it out. They go into old Steve. Holy shit, that little exchange where he's like, what, you got a name? I'm going to call you Steve. He's like, my name is Your Death. He goes, I prefer Steve. Gold. And then later we come and go, hey, Steve. And then he gets up and then Rainbow Sun's like, bye, Steve. Boom! Blasts him. And they just kept, and again, a third scene come in and go, hey, Steve. And I'm like, this is never going to get old. I love it.
Yeah. It becomes a running joke. They just start giving him different names. There's Todd. There's Bill.
Really?
It's
gold. So great.
They just give them white dude names.
That was fun. But, they test it out. They send in that guy. And again, I'm glad you said at the start of the podcast, Brendan, that you've been saying for a while, that's what you love about Atlantis, is they don't have to adhere to the rules of the ethics and morals that Earth and military and governments do. And I kind of wish they really referred to that. And that scene with Shepard and Weir, where Shepard says what they want to do, and Weir says, the Geneva Convention probably have something to say against that. And rather than say, well, hey, we're not in that galaxy. We don't have to do that. They don't even know. Don't put it in your reports. He's just like, well, I bet if the Wraith were at Geneva, they would have eaten everybody. And I'm like, yeah, that's an easy way to sum it up. But I feel like you could have just said, we're not there, mate. No one's going to know. Let's f*** these guys over by doing something, okay, questionably illegal.
Even if you did tell them, you couldn't get done for it. It's like being on national waters.
And
absolutely.
Don't you have to have signed the Geneva Convention? You have to be a country that signed the Geneva Convention to be protected by the Geneva Convention?
Probably something like that, yeah.
So
exactly.
It's The Wraith aren't part of that agreement. That's like saying
seems flaky, whatever it is.
Yeah. That's like saying, oh, the Wraith aren't protected by our NATO alliance. It's like, well, obviously they're not.
But then you get, like, further on, the development is that he starts, like, dying because of it, and then does die, Steve. And then they're like, oh my god, it's not just a defense, it's also an attack. We can't possibly use this. And, like, the Hoffins are like, no, we can totally use this. Fuck that shit. Let's all get it. And not only are we defended by it, but if they try and attack us, we will survive and they will die. And then, like, everyone on the Atlantis team saying, nah, man, that's wrong. You know why? Because if you don't defend yourself but you attack them, they're going to be, like, super angry. And they'll probably come after you. And we can't have that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I think we sort of stressed that for a while, that it was just, like, wrong to do because the Wraith would get upset about it and retaliate, before it became about the fact that the inoculation was going to kill 50% of the people that took it. And then, okay, that's meaty. That's bad. And the fact that old Santa Claus looking motherfucker was like, oh no, it's fine. So he's full Donald Trump. Like, oh my God, is it Donald Trump right now? He's like, only 50% of people will die. That means 50% of the people will live. Those are statistics. Those are hard facts.
Believe me, that is the greatest percentage of people.
But, like, the fact that like, that's where it did get, like, actually juicy. And it was like, this guy, they started out nice. They were just like, you know what? We wish we could be a society that survived. Every time we get a leg up, the Wraith come in and cull us, and we can't stop it. We've got these hidden archives that store the knowledge of our people. The Wraith can't even destroy this. We don't show anyone, we're showing you. We want to live, we want to survive. We've got this medicine we've been working on. And then they get the medicine working. Beckett brings his laptop. They're like, what is this technology? It's like, it's
magic.
Deal with it. Don't worry about it.
Not even that good, actually.
It's not even that good. It's 2005, okay? It still takes
Pretty sure it was an Acer.
It's a floppy disk one, if we're
They only
totally
got
honest.
like 4 gig of RAM, bro.
Have you guys got Wi-Fi? Oh my god.
Mate, the Hoffins don't even have a 3-pin plug. How the hell was that thing going to be on for more than an hour?
Run a Cat 6 through the wormhole.
No, they just bought a Nakwita generator and supercharged the out of it.
And all of that, and it was just like, I appreciated the meatiness, like I said, of the end, where the guy was willing to sacrifice half his population to attack.
And the population went along with it, like they all voted yes.
Was it 96 or 90? No, 96% of the people
Something
agreed
like
to
that.
it. I'm like, what the f***, man? You know what? Not half of our 98% might die, but the other half will live, and I'm back at it. I'm strong enough to be in the 50% that lives. Like, what the hell?
What? I just imagine the Hoffin journalists be like, to the Santa Claus motherfucker, why do you keep saying it's the Wraith Virus? Like, is it a race thing? He's like, ask the race. Why is it called the Wraith Virus? Because it's for the Wraith, okay?
We're going to build a wall between us and the Wraith. It's a virus, believe me.
Believe me.
The best way. We're gonna do all the research. The Wraith are gonna pay for it.
A strong way to the Wraith.
Post that where he went to the mask facility and he didn't wear a mask, and in the background, Live and Let Die, the song was playing.
My favorite is the guy's just chilling there, the worker.
Yeah.
Just keeps working.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, yeah,
Look.
sure. And the guy just didn't give a f that he was there.
I know, like, the American base listeners that listen to our podcast, they're always like just
Great
sending us
people.
through. They are great people. They're always sending us through things and laughing at Trump. So I'm not like, hey, if you're a Trump supporter, cool, good on you. But the rest of it is like, these little segments are just fun because, like, when Trump goes, the world love me and love us and they love everything we're doing. No, we don't. We question it. We laugh at it sometimes. Like, you know, hey, we're not doing the right thing all the time either. But, you know,
Put it this way, Trump makes George Bush look competent, really. I mean...
I miss the days of laughing at Bush like he was the worst thing that was ever going to happen.
I didn't think it
was
was
awesome.
going to get worse.
Remember that ad, the big billboard you'd see, and it was George Bush sitting at a computer, and it was like iTunes, so easy, any idiot can use it. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Now it's like there's too much to do. There's too much fun to be had that you can't even. I don't know. It's almost wrong to have it. I don't know.
It's so entertaining. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Because it's not us. Because 80,000 people haven't died in our country.
It is us. Like, it's not us, but it's America, the biggest superpower in the world, and they're losing to
For
China.
now.
I love that. He goes, like, someone questioned him in the Oval Office and said, I'm from a bunch of hospitals. I represent them that don't have any equipment. They don't have any PPE. And he's like, nah. And she says, well, when we don't, he goes, okay, sure, you might not, but I've spoken to heaps of other people and they say they've got heaps, so we've got heaps. In fact, we've got too much. We're going to start donating it to the other countries. I'm like, hang on, wouldn't you first donate it to the places that just told you they don't have it?
She just said they're getting it sporadically.
Oh, yeah, I think they got criticised because they did give a whole bunch to China. It's entertaining at the very least.
It is. It is. It can be summed up with that gif that you find of Kanye where he laughs and then he turns his head, and as he turns, he goes real super serious and sad because oh shit, this is real.
Like,
you could have laughed, otherwise you'd
loved
cry.
How stupid George Bush was, and I even bought a DVD of Bushisms, which was just like 40 minutes of gaffes.
Yeah.
And honestly, in the first 4 years of the Trump administration, like, he's going to win again. That's the funniest thing. Joe Biden's just a fucking idiot. The first 4 years, there's so many DVDs. It's like, it's more than the Lord of the Rings DVD set.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it'd be amazing.
The one you said the other week, Mitch, I think it was you, and it's just like all his like gaffes of mispronouncing words. It's just like a 3-minute video of him mispronouncing words.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Let's all just agree to just basically abolish all the governments, and we'll let Bernie Sanders and Jacinta Ardern become emperors of Earth.
I honestly, I struggle to understand why the Democrats don't get behind Bernie Sanders in the party, because I mean, in Australia it's different. Obviously, the party nominates their candidate, and then the people don't actually vote for that candidate. They vote for the people in the local federal election. Yeah,
it's a very different voting process.
They're only allowed to campaign for 32 days at the most, not 18 months, which is outrageous.
And whereas for us, like, voting is mandatory or we get fined, voting is an elective process over there. And so then they fight the system by, like, making it hard for certain groups and minorities to register to vote.
Well, they have to do it on a Tuesday. Here you can do postal votes all week, and then it's on a Saturday.
Yeah, and you've got all day.
So there's no real reason why you can't vote.
And the threat of a fine, so you find time to get it done.
Yeah.
Or, you go in the day before or the week before or postal vote. Or
I don't agree with it's mandatory, especially in this COVID situation. They made us, with threat of a fine, to go and vote for who was it? For the mayor of Brisbane.
It was local. It wasn't national.
That
was
wasn't silly.
State. It was a local government.
Like
Anastasia. I haven't voted on the actual election day in probably 3 or 4 years. I always just go like a week beforehand, and I'm usually the only person in the polling thing. Whereas this time around, I had to line up outside a week before the election, and they had like gallons of hand sanitizer there. And letting people in like 2 at a time.
It's like when I went in, they had to do the social distancing, but the people who gave out the voting cards didn't have gloves. There was no sanitizer. I bought my own pencil because I'm smart enough to do it. Otherwise,
I didn't even think of that.
They wouldn't, So you still had to handle the same bit of paper that the person who was handing it out gave to you.
Yeah.
So
I had hand sanitizer in the car.
Yeah, me too.
When I took my mum to her cancer treatment this week, like her leukemia treatment, they had, because you have to sign in, they had like a table set back, and there was 2 coloured buckets with pens, and you had to sign, you had to get the pen out of the clean bucket, sign, and put it in the dirty bucket, and then they would wipe them all down later on, so as not to transfer, because obviously everyone there would have, weakened immune systems. And they also got rid of all the magazines in the treatment rooms and the waiting areas. they threw them all out because they didn't want a chance of them like cross-contaminating either.
Yeah.
It's full on.
So weird, even your psychology, the way that it's changed over the last few months. I even watch Netflix and watch TV shows. They shake hands and hug, and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, so strange how quickly you can just shift.
I warn you all now, when we actually get to hang out in person again, you guys are going to get some bear hugs. I tell you what, I haven't had human contact in like a month, so, you know, there might be some dry humping as well. I don't know. I can't promise there won't be.
Make sure Lincoln's there.
Yeah.
We do that anyway, though. We do that if we haven't seen each other for 2 days. That's fine.
Isn't it, just to take it back to a Stargate thing, it's, God, we've been talking some politics, but like, is it a Jaffa thing to, when they handshake, do they do the old Kevin Sorbo Hercules thing where instead of shaking your hand, you kind of shake the upper forearm of something?
Yeah, you grab the forearms like that.
Just below the elbow, right? Is that what the Jafar do?
Yeah, yep. Shell Captain and run.
Oh, I'm saying, hey, post-COVID, that's how I want to fucking shake hands.
Yeah,
because I think that looks boss, man. When I was a kid and I used to watch Hercules, the legendary adventures with Kevin Sorbo, and that's how they would basically shake hands, that they would just do the warrior's grasp of a forearm. I'm like, holy shit, that's what tough men do, right? And then you watch Stargate, and that's what Teal'c and the Jafar do, and I'm like, no, that's okay, we're still making physical contact, but it's not hand-to-hand. Like, how often are you touching something with the forearm just below your elbow?
I think there is a little bit of homophobia in that because it's like, straight men don't touch hands. They will grab forearms instead.
Well, okay, maybe.
It looks badass, though. Like, it looks boss.
Yeah.
It's a very
homophobic.
I think the whole thing of waving and even grasping hands, like, stems from back in the day when it was like, that's how you show you're not bearing any weapons. Yeah. Like, hi, I don't have a weapon in my hand, you know?
Well, that was a salute, right? That's what they said. The salute was like the knights back in the day where they would lift like the not the visor or the mask, but their eye cover, the cover over their eyes. They would lift that up to show that they were a friendly. Like, it would show their face.
I never heard that.
I'd heard that somewhere. That could be completely false. But, like, basically you would lift your arm up and raise that sort of guard over your eyes to show someone that that's what you looked like. Hey, it's me, blah, blah, blah. And then after people stopped wearing helmets and stopped fighting on horseback or blah, whatever, that it would just be, you would still raise your hand and put it on your head. And that would be that would be a mark of respect.
I love shit like that.
Oh, yeah. Like, I love that that's how we've evolved as humans and, like, just little gestures and shit like that. Like, I love that sort of shit. So I like
the idea of the cheers with the cups. So you chink the glasses together so each one of your liquids pours into the other so you didn't poison one another.
Ah, is that what it was? Yeah.
My favourite is, you know, like dining etiquette where it's when you sit down at the table, fork on the left, knife on the right. That's because, you know, you go back to back the old Viking days, forks didn't exist. You just had your knife in your right hand to, you know, cut your meat or whatever, and then eat it with your left hand. So the knife was always in your right hand because everyone was right-handed.
And if you weren't, you were gay, so they'd kill you. Yeah,
you were gay and killed, basically. You're a witch. Do you know, my mum was born left-handed, but she's right-handed now because, like, her teachers used to beat her hand with, like, the ruler and stuff whenever she'd use her left hand. This is, like, back in the 50s. They would, they would say,
my mother's gay, like George Costanza.
My mother's gay.
Jesus, I feel like we rarely go on tangents like this outside of episodes.
How many
despise? And
you're also recording from home, and how many drinks deep are you two? Like, I feel like there's a bit of that in there.
My 3 is more like a 5.5 or 6.
I think I'm one shot away from being half a bottle.
Oof.
Yeah, I moved on to a different bottle, so I didn't finish one, and so I've still got 3 separate bottles. They've got bourbon in it, yeah. And I think the other one's stronger, to be totally honest. From drinks 2 and 3, they've been stronger, so it could be over the.
I had raspberry cordial, and that's not a euphemism. It was legit Coddy's red cordial.
There's some sugar in there. Don't worry about that. You're buzzing.
That'll keep you buzzing.
I liked this line. I'm just going to share this.
One last thread of knowledge, not for themselves, but for the generation that would survive. 10,000 soldiers gave their lives to give them those last few hours. The last words of Farrell's journal are known to all Hoffins.
Trump, drums in the deep.
More survived the calling.
You cannot get out. Your shadow moves in the dark. You cannot get out.
Wraith.
They are coming.
That's incredible.
Fool of a
Dr. Will.
They come in paints. I'm getting on.
I believe the rule is you have to preface that with "I made something."
No, he doesn't. He never has before. And the thing is, it's been a long time since Brendan did make something that completely caught me by surprise.
Truth.
I did that in the tomb from season 5 with Daniel.
Yeah.
Reading the book of
Oh,
Balance.
it could have been season 4, maybe.
Could have been. I think it was 5.
It's one of the Ian McKellen quotes I go back to all the time, just the way that he really lets the S's drums.
yeah.
My high school PE teacher did that, and I wanted to stab him every time he did it.
Well, Brendan and I went on holidays with our school PE teachers.
Oh my god.
That's no lie.
Yeah, we did.
I know.
Like 3 times.
Yeah, and you know what? Years after we finished school.
My grade 12 drama teacher added me on Facebook a couple of years ago. That was unfortunate.
Well, I mean, I feel like we covered ground, but we also didn't. That was an interesting chat. That was like our religion chat.
That was our demons chat.
Have fun editing the cut of that one, Mitchell.
I don't even know what to do about that. I kind of want to just leave it all as it is, or maybe
might
we
as
can
well.
extend it.
I think this podcast reflects the episode of Stargate. It just fell apart at the end, you know?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'll take your word for it because I can't remember.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch, I don't have 5 questions for you, but I do have one from Ashley OG. Just the one. So it's not a time or anything.
Just one.
Let's do it.
It's not a timer. Ashley O. Poisoning the Well. What SG1 episode is this the same as?
I feel like we said it before, and I'm already forgetting. A cure.
Correct.
Oh God!
Correct.
Thank God. Oh, the precious.
I was about to start singing, "It's Friday, I'm in love."
This one was from Ashley O last week, who directed Affinity.
Peter DeLuise.
Correct.
Oh, I was about to say Brad Turner, but he did this episode.
It's 1:30 in the morning, but you got there.
Yep, I got there at 4 a.m.
Nice. Well, there you go, 100%.
2 from 2. Rhys somewhere is screaming at us, going, hang on. Not only did you ask him one question about this episode, you asked him a question about last week that he's had to research on.
That's what happens.
Well, it is what happens, and I got 2 out of 2, so suck a dick.
Oh, and if you want to contribute some trivia questions, jump onto Patreon.
Or even contribute. I mean, you don't even have to contribute. You can always just contribute as well.
If you want, if that's the way you want to say it. You can jump onto Discord or Patreon. Get in amongst the guys.
Yeah.
Don't poison the well. Jump onto Patreon.
Yeah. I mean, you can put whatever you want in my well. You can poison it or do whatever you want once you're on Patreon.
Well, look, in the meantime, other than jumping at the Patreon, if you are a first-timer and that's the first you've heard of the Patreon, it might be also the first time you've heard about how to subscribe. Head to Get Into Geek, a Stargate podcast on your favourite podcasting outlets. You can follow us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, or drop us a long-form line of communication, getintogate@gmail.com.
God, yeah. And you can get on Discord too. Yeah. Just follow those socials links, and I'm sure it'll be on there somewhere.
Yeah. It's been a while, but you reckon we should just empty the mailbag? Just grab onto a hairy mailbag and give a tug.
Yeah, we said that a couple of weeks. So.
I'd like it if at the end of every episode we said, let's do a mailbag episode soon.
Yeah, that can be a running bit for...
That's our Matt
season.
Damon, we didn't have time for him tonight gag.
I like it.
And look, this is more from Brendan and I. Nothing against Matty, it's just he's not into it. But from Brendan and I to the rest of the world outside of Australia, more than anything, you're welcome, because as of 4 or 5 days from the release of this podcast, May 28th, the bloody NRL is back. One of the only sporting competitions going on the planet. It just happens to be the best goddamn game in the world. You're welcome, okay? Just about watching huge blokes run at each other and just smack the absolute piss out of each other. You know, that's what I'm talking about. That's sport, Matty. That's sport.
Get Into Geek.